The revolution's begun. The time to stand up has come. We are the rocking of the throne. We are the rocking of the throne.
My name is Victor Tiffany with Revolt Against Plutocracy, the Bernie or Bust Gang. This video has four purposes. First, it's going to be a status report of the Bernie or Bust Strategy 2020, where we are compared to where we were. Second, this is going to, at the time indicator here in the video, I'm going to start talking about the 6 reasons, the 6 categories of voters who will only come out for Bernie Sanders. This is a major problem for any other candidate running against Donald Trump whose not name is Bernie Sanders. So you're not going to want to miss that. The next section, beginning at this time mark, I'll talk about media coverage of Bernie or Bust strategy for 2020 election cycle, or I should say, the lack of it. And finally, at this point in the video, I will be talking, what I'll do is I'll go into screen share and give you a tour of the Bernie or Bust website, what we have available for people to use, how we have things set up on Facebook and so forth. Just a rough general tour of the Bernie or Bust universe as seen from my desktop computer. So, Bernie or Bust 2020. We started out this time around with 47,000. I sent a blast out to everyone and asked them, hey, if you're not Bernie or Bust this time around, please unsubscribe. And it dropped down to under 47,000. That was back in May, I think it was, June. We've been promoting Bernie or Bust pledge, same website, basically the same pledge as last time, and we're up to just over 48,000. So it's going slower, actually, from the beginning, probably for 2 reasons. I said it was the same pledge. It's not exactly the same pledge because this time we're not giving write-in option as a choice. That was a stupid mistake last time, and obviously we're not going to repeat our mistakes. That said, if Bernie Sanders gets pissed off at the DNC this time around and says, fuck you guys, I'm running as a write-in candidate, then naturally that would be the right thing to do. That would make it a revolutionary vote as opposed to a protest vote. You write in Bernie Sanders, he's not a write-in candidate, or Ralph Nader or anyone else. That's a protest vote. He's not going to get elected no matter what. If you write in Bernie Sanders and he's running as a write-in candidate, that's an act of revolution. If you vote for a Green Party candidate or a Socialist Party candidate in the general election, that's an act of revolution. Peaceful electoral revolution. You vote blue no matter who, that's an act of surrender. So back to our status. There was a Bob TV channel on YouTube last time around, but it wasn't run by us. It was run by a guy named Robert. So he's continued. He's doing things with his channel. He sort of got the taste of doing videos, and he's still doing that. This time, Revolt Against Plutocracy committee member Kit Howell has got his own Bernie or Bust video YouTube channel, and I'll present that to you when we do the tour of the Bernie or Bust universe as seen from my desktop later on. What else is new? We have a plan B this time. I think most subscribers to this channel already know that if Bernie Sanders drops out for any reason, we just seamlessly slide over and start doing Tulsi or trash the Democratic Party. Now, some people have been emailing me, oh, Tulsi this or Tulsi that. Most of it's coming from the brainwashing, propaganda coming from corporate media, because these are the tools of the military-industrial complex, and they do not want Tulsi's anti-imperialist presidency. They don't want her anywhere near the presidency. So they're smearing her in many different ways. But she's not perfect. I mean, she insisted on using Islamic terrorism. We think that was a mistake. Obama thought that was a mistake. You know, she's got an imperfect past. She's made a lot of progress in her life and her thinking to break out of her conservative upbringing. That's not easy for people to do, but she served in Iraq, and she came back inside a different person, and she's not a homophobe anymore like she said she was. Anyway, that's Plan B for Bernie or Bust. What else is new? We have our own YouTube channel, as I said, and I'll cover that. I think that's about it for where we are at this point in time. Media coverage. Oh, six categories of six categories of voters who will not be voting for Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or any of the rest of these Democrats. This is not something you're going to hear in the corporate media, obviously, and they're not going to talk about how the bottom has fallen out from beneath the center, from beneath neoliberalism. Voters are sick and tired of these neoliberal so-called free trade agreements that outsource American jobs to Mexico. And if the TPP had been passed, in other words, if Hillary Clinton had won the election, they'd be outsourcing American jobs to Vietnam by now. So it's very important to make the case against these centrists. And by the way, centrist is a euphemism for neoliberal. Or the progressive, Elizabeth Warren. She's in this thing to break up the left, to divide the left, divide and conquer. This is the establishment or the capitalist way of undermining Bernie Sanders. They've got the rules set up now so that on the first round of voting at the DNC in July of 2020, if the candidate doesn't have 50% or more, then it goes to the second round, and that's when the superdelegates can vote, and that's when it's over for Bernie's political revolution. His revolution will be turned off at that point, and he'll be imploring all of his supporters to get in behind the ticket because, oh my God, Donald Trump's so horrible. And he is horrible. But the thing is, these trade agreements are worse than 9 Supreme Court nominees by Donald Trump. I know that's hard to wrap your head around, but it's permanent. These trade agreements have no exit language, and they're basically an imposition of corporate self-government on our entire government, from federal, state, and local. So these trade agreements, and by the way, I wrote about these trade agreements in Bernie or Bust, Pioneers of Electoral Revolt. So you can get a hold of that and read it and get a better understanding of why these things are of such great concern. It would have been a massive, unprecedented historical power grab had Hillary Clinton won, and that TPP would have been shoved down our throats through Congress using the fast track legislation. But I digress. 6 categories of voters who will not be supporting a neoliberal, centrist, progressive Democrat. It's Bernie or Bust this time around for, obviously, us, the Bernie or Bust people. That's 48,000 and counting so far. There is the so-called Bernie or Bust generation. This was an essay I'll point out to you in the tour. Essay contest winner published in the New York Times. 17-year-old will be voting for the first time next year, declared herself to be a member of the Bernie or Bust generation. Well, I just looked into numbers here. It's 4.4 million people who will be eligible to vote for the first time next year. We can cut that at least in half. You know, there's going to be Republicans and conservatives out there. They're certainly not the Bernie or Bust, part of the Bernie or Bust generation, if you will. So if it's 2.2 million people who might be leaning in that direction, I have a social science background. I'm not going to say, oh, it's 2.2 million voters who aren't going to be voting for a neoliberal centrist. And by the way, the author of that essay contest defines or bust as staying home, which is not Bernie or Bust. We want people to vote. This is a revolutionary activity. It doesn't mean staying home. But I digress again. 2.2 million people maybe that might be leaning in the Democratic Party direction. I have to believe no more than 10% of them being objective about the size of the Bernie or Bust section of the Bernie or Bust generation, the so-called Bernie or Bust generation. That's 220,000 voters who won't come out and vote for Joe Biden or anyone like that. Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris. For them, it's Bernie, or they're staying home to vote. They're staying home, they're not voting. Another group, they're the DSA people. They passed a Bernie or Bust resolution, fairly close vote. That's a 58,000 member organization. So if it was a close vote, let's cut that in half, 26,000 people. If half of them take it seriously and don't vote for the Democrat unless it's Bernie Sanders, And that's not what the resolution says. It just says they're now only going to endorse Bernie Sanders, which is probably great for Elizabeth Warren because she doesn't want socialists endorsing her campaign anyway. So it's a very weak T resolution. But let's assume half of the people who voted for it, maybe 13,000 people, that is the smallest segment of people who won't support a neoliberal Democrat next year. 50% larger than us Bernie busters, according to polls in the aftermath of the 2016 shocker, are Bernie or Trumpers. The right-wing media wants to call these people Bernie or busters. They're not. If you're going to vote for Trump, you're not Bernie or bust, you're Bernie or Trump. You're a swing voter, in other words. That's another group. They've been polled, supposedly 20% of Bernie supporters are Bernie or Trump. That's not us, but they're out there, and there's a lot more of them than there are of us. We would love to recruit them and turn them into actual revolutionaries rather than misguided swing voters. Be that as it may, that's another section. And then there's two more sections that are larger yet. And this comes from Thomas Piketty, French political economist who did a study published in 2018. We didn't know this last time, but this time we do know. Poor people and poorly educated citizens won't vote at all unless there's a social democrat, someone like Bernie Sanders on the ballot, a democratic socialist, social democrat. They'll come out and support somebody offering $15 an hour minimum wage because they need that increased income, or free education because they or their children need that education in order to get ahead, or health care for all because they hurt, right? They can't even afford to go to the hospital. They have to go in the emergency room. That's when things get bad enough. They are the poor. And there's a lot more of them than there are acclaimed or self-proclaimed Bernie or busters. 6 categories: Bernie or busters, Bernie bust generation, DSA folks, swing voters, poor people, and poorly educated people. 6 categories of voters will not come out for another neoliberal Democrat like Hillary Clinton. Joe Biden is Hillary Clinton with a penis, basically. So, except I think Hillary was more articulate. She didn't mess up her language. She wasn't a gaffe master. I think Biden, in some ways, is less electable than Hillary Clinton, you can imagine. So those are the 6 categories. In my view, that makes Bernie Sanders not only the most electable Democrat running, but perhaps the only person who can defeat Trump, barring, this is an important caveat, barring a market crash before the election or a recession. Right? If you have those conditions, even Joe Biden will probably be able to beat Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump in the election. But if there isn't, if the economy is still chugging along, and right now the technicals are in pretty good shape, except for one regarding long-term, short-term bond interest rates, that is a technical parameter that often preceded recessions, but it may not this time. At any rate, if the U.S. economy keeps chugging along, then there's only one candidate, in my view, who can beat Donald Trump. And by the way, those poor people and poorly educated people, they might not be registered. They might be don't have transportation to get to the polling place. So who has the army that can make sure these go door to door, find these people, make sure they're registered to vote, and then on election day, transport them to the polling place if need be? Only Bernie Sanders. So Bernie Sanders isn't the most electable Democrat. He is that too. He's probably the only one who can beat Trump unless there's a downturn in the economy. Now, media coverage of this thing so far. I'm starting to get invitations and interviews on podcasts. We didn't even go about that last time. We were trying to go after the big media, and they wouldn't touch us until we had 58,000 voters. And then when they heard me describe Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump as a choice of 2 different kinds of fascists, CNN dropped their invitation to me to speak on the air at all. Last thing they needed is somebody defining Hillary Clinton as some type of fascist. And by the way, this is covered in our book. She is a fascistic neoliberal. Trump is a neoliberal fascist. You can get our book, by the way, at bernieorbust.info. Just about no one else is covering this. There's no story about Bernie bust. There's been a lot of mentions of Bernie or bust. There's been stories in the New York Times about the DSA weak T resolution, right? One resolution gets passed, New York Times covers it. We've been doing this for 4 years now. I mean, obviously with a break in the midterms, but we have an organization focused on burning your bus. New York Times won't touch us. Progressive bloggers and progressive people, let's take Benjamin Dixon, right? He's got his platform on YouTube and so forth. He's a progressive. He supports Bernie Sanders. He won't mention burning your bus. Why? Because there's a fascist in the White House. Well, yeah, there's a fascist in the White House. What are you going to go with Joe Biden and put a neoliberal, a fascistic neoliberal in the White House? Remember, Biden was part of the Obama administration that gave us 6 more wars or 5 more wars, whatever extra wars he threw into the President Bush combination of Iraq and Afghanistan wars. 7 wars we came out from the Obama administration of, dropping 16,000 bombs a year. That's under Biden, Obama, right? So you're not going to get progress from Joe Biden. He's not the lesser of 2 evils. I would argue, again, it's a big mistake. Neoliberalism is the disease that people are running from. And that makes Trump the symptom for that disease. It is madness to think, well, we got to go back to someone like Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, right? That's the disease. If you're trying to address the symptom of the disease, Donald Trump, you don't offer the American people more disease, you offer them a cure to the disease. That's Bernie Sanders or Tulsi Gabbard, but honestly, she doesn't have the organization to win a national campaign. She's a great candidate, but she doesn't have the organization to actually defeat Donald Trump, in my opinion. So that makes Bernie Sanders really the only one set to take on Trump. Ideologically, we have to get away from neoliberalism. His democratic socialism is a big step in the right direction. So another person in the media I've asked multiple times to have me on. I was on vacation for a week not too long ago. I asked Garland Nixon, another supporter, Garland Dixon, I think his name is. Dixon. Anyway, he has a radio show in Washington, D.C. I asked him to have me come in or talk on the air, call in, and discuss burning your bus on the air. No reply. Doesn't want it. Wants Bernie Sanders, but doesn't want to discuss burning your bus yet. So if you're listening to this, you want to help out, reach out to Benjamin Dixon on Twitter or Garland Dixon on Twitter, and say, hey, how come you're not talking about burning your bus? You think they should talk about this? Even if they disagree with burning your bus, even if they condemn burning your bus, these people's listeners need to understand burning your bus is real. I mean, I could call off burning your bus completely. Hey, everyone, never mind. Donald Trump has to be defeated. It wouldn't stop. Burning your bus has its own momentum at this point. So it's happening whether progressives like Ben and Garland like it or not. It's happening. So better to actually condemn it, make Democrats aware that it's happening, and so when the primary season comes along, the Democrats will have it in their mind, oh my God, these burn your bus folks. There's all these people who are burning your bus. DSA's burning your bus. There's a burning your bus generation coming along. Oh my God, we better nominate Bernie, because if we don't, there's really no one else who's going to get support of these people. And we are talking about millions of people, poor people, that only Bernie Sanders can activate, motivate to get out and vote. You would think someone like Garland Dixon would want me on the air to describe this. But alas, that is not the case. So I'm still going to be doing podcasts. We're still pushing for more interviews. I believe there's one coming up soon, hopefully with, what's his name? Nico House should interview me. He was Bernie your bus last time and former member of the Revolt Against Plutocracy Committee. So hopefully those will be coming up. One more thing about media coverage. If you go down the media page on our website, you'll see one from 2016. I took the rest out. And then all the rest is this season. There are people talking about burning your bus. The only 2 stories that are actually about burning your bus exactly what we're doing. One was written by Patrick Walker when he was with Revolt Against Plutocracy, and one is by Kit Howe, who is with Revolt Against Plutocracy. Nobody else out there has written a story published online about the 2020 Bernie or Bust strategy. No one. Think about that. I mean, that might have been understandable 4 years ago because it was new, it was pioneering. No one had ever heard of this sort of thing before. The closest thing to it was party unity my ass. Clinton's racist voters who wouldn't support Barack Obama, so they voted for madman John McCain, who ideologically is probably closer to Hillary Clinton than Barack Obama. This time, where's the coverage? I had a woman tell me she was going to write a story about Bernie or Bust back in June, 2 months ago. No story. I'm not going to name names because I think she's still going to write something, but it's very disappointing. The media is not serving the public very well. And if Bernie Sanders does not get the nomination and Donald Trump wins the election somehow, economy stays strong or whatever, then we're going to be pointing our fingers at these media, both corporate and independent, and you all know who you are out there. We'll be pointing our fingers at them as responsible for the re-election of Donald Trump because they're not covering this. And if they don't cover this, they're not getting the word out to Democrats that, hey, Bernie or Bust is real, it's bigger and better this time. So if you don't want to get defeated by Donald Trump, the only way to unite all wings of the Democratic Party except the oligarchic wing, they're going to support Donald Trump over Bernie Sanders. Donnie Deutsch of MSNBC made that very clear. He would prefer Donald Trump to Bernie Sanders. Well, fuck these people. Fuck these old oligarchs. They can support Trump. These are the 1%ers. Let them go. Because the masses, the poor people, and the poorly educated people will come out for Bernie Sanders. And we think there's enough swing voters that will come over to Bernie Sanders. And a lot of older independent voters aren't going to like Trump's fascism or Bernie's socialism. What are they going to do? They'll leave that line blank or they'll stay home. And that's a benefit to Bernie Sanders, actually, as long as they're not voting for Trump. So I'm going to turn on my share screen here and give you a little tour of the Bernie or Bust world. So here's the essay by the 17-year-old claiming that she's a member of the Bernie or Bust generation. You can find this article on our website. This is the media tab of our Bernie or Bust website. You can see it's just a free blog, but we have it configured to look like a website. And this is the media coverage page. You can see she covered it back, or had her essay published in June. Here's Alan Howe's story about Bernie or Bust on Medium. And I could just go on down. Here's my second interview with Robert Christian. And then I've been interviewed a couple more times. This is with Niall Elkim. And I had another interview not too long ago with the Plebis Project. So there's more of those coming down the line. This is the homepage. This is where you take the actual Bernie or Bust pledge. You can see it's quite lengthy. Main thing is to get the word out. Get a bumper sticker. Go buy a bumper sticker. So this is one way to find the bumper sticker. We have our manifesto. Last time around, it was about political revolution and campaign finance reform. This time, it's about the environment. This is about the climate collapse. The IPCC report changed our priorities. We're using leverage on behalf of Bernie Sanders. None of that's changed, but this time, our priorities have changed. And Bernie Sanders just put out his great Green New Deal proposal, making him indeed the premier candidate to address climate change and to make climate preservation a reality. These are just stories about Bernie Sanders. Nothing special here. Frequently asked questions people might have about the Bernie or Bust strategy. You can go there. If anyone has a question you can't answer, you can send them to that tab. We have a movement building tab where people can sign up to help us promote Burn Your Bus Pledge, you just click there. This is a tutorial for Facebook. I'm going to show you another place where you can find that. It shows how to promote Burn Your Bus Pledge on Facebook without ending up in Facebook jail. Yeah, we've outsmarted them this time around. This is a way to just increase the visibility of Burn Your Bus on Facebook. We got to start sticking that in front of suburban housewives and suburban husbands, you know, suburbanites, Democrats, people who aren't paying much attention. We got to start putting this in front of their face. And this is a way to do that, according to following along in that tutorial. This is from the Burn Your Bus channel, which I can show you here in a little bit. Let me see if I can find that channel page. Did you know that's not it? Right there. This is a wiki proof that the fix is in for 2020. This is how all these Democrats that are running for president were recruited. Right? Ellen Howell got to the bottom of it. So this is his Burn Your Bus show. You can click on his YouTube name, and I will provide a link to this Burn Your Bus channel below this video. What else do we have? Back on our website, we have a list. This is a pretty important list. We have a list of neoliberals and articles about them. It'll load here. All right, so we'll come down here. This is basically, we didn't decide who's who in terms of who's the neoliberal and who's the progressive. They made that decision 4 years ago when they sided with the neoliberal running for president as a Democrat, of course, Hillary Clinton. And if you note, this isn't guilt by association. This is neoliberalism by affiliation, like this particular Clinton superdelegate. Keep that in mind when you're voting in the primaries next year. So this is the, I don't even know if I can get down the page far enough. This is the list of articles about Joe Biden. Look at this thing. It's like Hillary Clinton's list. It goes down 129. This is basically, this is just CNN lied to promote Joe Biden, of course. They do that all the time. NBC lies about Bernie Sanders, and CNN lies to help Joe Biden out. And there's more below that. We've got Beto O'Rourke. We've got Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren. This is her standing up, applauding for, if I can show you this real quick. Donald Trump says the United States will never be a socialist country. And who's standing up and applauding that great line?
America will never be a socialist country.
Yeah, I'm surprised Nancy Pelosi didn't stand up and applaud, but look who did. Come on, zoom in here. Oh, you don't see her. Elizabeth Warren stood for that line. Shame on her. And we have more. There's Kirsten Gillibrand and others on this page. Our agenda, basically campaign finance reform. It's still our agenda, but we have the Green Revolution that is our primary concern this time around. So that's it pretty much for us. Of course, there's also the page about the 3 members of Revolt Against Plutocracy. If you want to reach us, by the way, from our website on the movement building page, I didn't go down far enough on that. You can go down here, keep going down. These are things you can download and put on your Facebook page or your Twitter account, or just post them around on social media. These are websites where you can leave comments. Oh, I didn't go down too far. I did. All right, so you can post, Burn Your Bus pledge comments on any of these websites. The Nation, you have to be a subscriber. And then, let me see, I think below that, I'm going to have to come up and drop back down. There is a Nope, there isn't. I thought there was a form that you could reach us. Apparently there isn't. So that's that, and that's our Burn Your Bus Pledge website. We also have the Burn Your Bus book website. This explains the integrated strategy. Starting here, I do a integrated strategy. This is an Independent Revolutionary Integrated Strategy, or IRIS. I explain that, and then most of this is about the book. On down, you can click on here and go to the publisher's website and order it. You can click here, goes back to the other website where you can take the Burn Your Bus pledge. And to get here, by the way, it's burnyourbus.info. As you can see, this is the bumper sticker, right? So which directs people to this website so that they can get the bumper sticker, take the pledge, or buy the book. So this is an integrated strategy we have developed this year that we didn't have, of course, 2 years ago. We didn't have a book. And finally, there's another thing I want to get at here, if I get that out of the way. There is a Revolt Against Plutocracy rap sheet. And I want to point this out because this is our tool for this time around. We have, thank you, a very cool tool. So that tutorial about how to use Facebook is also right here. This links to that. And what we do is explain how to use this rap sheet page. This is an absolutely brilliant page that Kit Howell put together. What I want to show you real quick, I'm not going to show you how to use it because we have a tutorial for that, but I just want to show you what we have on here. These are his Burn Your Bus show episodes from his YouTube channel. He's also writing on Medium, so he has a whole series of articles on Medium. This is media coverage. This is Burn Your Bus narratives, videos, posts. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, show you the content. So what I've done with this is I've highlighted this whole page. You see it's quite a bit of Burn Your Bus narratives here and tweets that you can use and posts that you can use on Facebook and so forth, website comments. What I've done is I've taken that, copied it, and pasted it into a email to myself as a draft so I can modify it. All right, and this allows me to do something like this. Let's see, I have Burn Your Bus is a foregone conclusion, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. Again, that's from the files page on the rap sheet. I'm going to come over here to the website again. I'm just going to paste that in, hit enter, and you can find these various narratives that we list on the Burn Your Bus rap sheet here. You can paste them in or just click on them. These are hot links. You can just click on them. That'll work also. So there's that. And then there's one more thing I want to show you. If I just go back here to another. These are lists of groups. If you go down your list of groups on Facebook now, I'll just do a see more and then go down the page. You get to see what, 20, maybe 30, 20, I would say, groups that you belong to right here. That's it. That's my list of groups that I belong to. But I belong to hundreds of groups, and they're all gone. You can't find them now on Facebook. But all the groups that I belong to, at least as of last October, and ones that we've added to it, are right here. And these are hot links. Right? So you can, what we recommend, you'll see from the tutorial, is to right-click and open them in a new tab for use of how we promote the Burn Your Bus pledge. And I want to stress, we do this without landing in Facebook jail. We figured out how to get around that little problem. What else do we have? We have Burn Your Bus. We don't have a Burn Your Bus page. We have a Burn Your Else page. See if I can find that out here. There we go. This is the closest we come on Facebook to having a Burn Your Bus page, is our Burn Your Else page. And basically it tells people Bernie or else we're voting third party. That's that. You can have people, you can invite your friends to like it. That gives again, puts Burn Your Bust out in front of people. Again, that's right here. You can just click on this and invite your friends to like the page. And one more thing I want to show you over here is infrastructure. Actually, it's two more things I'm going to show you. You do a search for Burn Your Bust on Facebook. You got all these options, right? These are the various pages. We recommend using these pages on that tutorial on the rap sheet that I showed you. How to use these pages to get Burn Your Bust out in front of these suburban voters, the suburban-based Democrats. Or if you want to promote Burn Your Bust pledge, you can do that right here down the Burn Your Bust groups. There are dozens of these. Most of them have just a handful. There's 48 members in this group, but some of them are very large, and it's worth just being aware of all these various search results that you can get just on Burn Your Bust on Facebook. And finally, come over here to Twitter search result of hashtag Burn Your Bust. There's lots of things you can do here. What I'll do, for example, is reply to Indy. Oops. Let him know that Bernie or Bust is a pledge. This is something I will usually just paste into position. Yeah, if I can get my fingers to work. Pledge. And then the current pledge Bernie or Bust homepage on our pledge website is Bernie or Bust 2020.us. Now, before I send this out to someone, I just do this little trick and take Bernie or Bust or Bernie Sanders out of the loop. And I don't even want Democrats to know we're out here. GOP, I don't care if they know. You can leave them in, take them out, but I definitely want to keep Bernie out of the amount of activities we're engaged in. And that's that. Just hit reply, and then just go down this page, right, and work down this page, encouraging all these people who are hashtagging Burn Your Bust to actually take the Burn Your Bust pledge. It's something I work on, sell the Burn Your Bust bumper sticker that way, and so forth. So that's basically a tour of Burn Your Bust this time around. Thank you for listening, and this has been a presentation by Revolt Against Plutocracy.
Revolt Against Plutocracy won't just be covering the news about the necessary revolution in the United States. Sometimes we'll be making the news. If you want to stay on top of the revolutionary actions and strategies of grassroots, genuine progressives, and our allies, please subscribe to our YouTube channel today.